This video shows how to use JavaScript to access and modify HTML elements and CSS. We're going to start with HTML. We're going to create a form where a user will be able to put in some information such as an age and a name, and they click a button and it will show their name and age in the alert box. So the first thing we need to do is we're going to move the script file. So I've actually removed the call to the script.js file from my body. I'm going to write my JavaScript directly into the body of the HTML page, just so that we can easily see what's going on without having to jump pages. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create the script tag here. And in there is going to be my JavaScript, so I'm going to just leave this empty here for a second. And then the second thing is I'm going to create a button, and we're going to create two input forms. So I'm going to type in the input form first. Input, and a second input. And what these do is they create form inputs for us, so it allows the user to enter some data. And then we're going to create a button. And the button is going to be click me again. So we're just going to run this just to see what it looks like. And you should see that I've got two input forms and then the click me button, but obviously nothing happens when I do anything in there yet. Okay, so go back to the index page. So the next thing we need to do then is we're going to give the inputs an ID, so that we know then with the JavaScript how to target those particular inputs. So the first input is going to be for the name. So I'm going to call it ID equals quotes name in. So the ID attribute will then allow us to identify that particular input. And then the second one is going to be ID equals age in. Then on the button itself, then we need to have some JavaScript functions. So we're going to give it a DOM on click event. So on click, and we need to create a function for this, which we haven't done yet. So we'll just call it get data and the empty brackets. And then we'll then need to write the function in JavaScript for the get data function. So again, let's just run it and test it, just to make sure everything's looking good. And again, nothing's happening yet. The next step is to create the function itself. So like in the previous video, we're writing a function, and then we're going to put in the name of the function, which is get data, because that's what we named it down here. We're going to put in the empty brackets, and then we're going to put in the curly brackets for the body of the function. And then the body of the function is going to contain a variable that will allow us to access the input for the ID and for the name, for the age. So we're going to write in a variable, and in JavaScript we can write variables in three ways. You can either use let or var or const, and let is the best one to use because it allows the variable to change. So for example, if I say let and then I'm going to call this one name, and then I need to call up the ID of the input ID here, the name in. So I'm going to say let name equals document, which allows us to access the DOM document dot get element by ID. And notice that is written in camel case, so it's get element by ID, and that's a JavaScript call to grab the ID here. So get element by ID, and then we need to call it so it's the name in. And make sure you have no typos there, that's all exactly the same. And then finally we just need to get the value from the box as well. So let name equals document dot get element by ID name in dot value. And we'll do the same thing for the age then. So let age equals document dot get element by ID, and then again age in, and then dot value. And then finally then, for us to see what the output is, so when somebody enters some data into these fields, we're going to have an alert box. So we're going to type in alert, and then the brackets, and then in the, because it's a variable, we don't need a quote. Previously we should put in a quote, hello world, for example. This time we're just going to put in the variables themselves. So the variables, we've called them, is name and age. I can say alert name plus age, and that should then bring both of them together in the alert box, and then a semicolon. So we'll run this now. So again, I'm writing my name here and my age, and then click me, and you can see then it brings in Hugh and 21 into the alert box. Now if you notice, the variable, when it's been called up, doesn't have a space between it, just says Hugh 21. So if I want to add a space between the two variables, I can just go back to my index page, and then we can use the plus symbol here. So we're going to keep that one. I'm going to put in a quotes with a space, because space is a character, and then another plus symbol. So that means it goes name plus space plus the age. So when I run this now, 21, you see Hugh space 21 comes up. Now the next video will just show us, or the next section of the video will just show us then how to change an alert, because alerts and pop-ups are often associated with errors. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to get the data from the name in and the age in, and we're going to show them into a new piece of HTML down here. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create another input below here. So I'm going to put in a break tag, which will give me a new line, and I'm going to put another input here, and I'm going to give it an ID equals outbox. And we'll also give it an attribute of read only, which basically means that nobody can type into that box, it can only be read. So that's using the read only attribute. The next thing I need to do is I need to be able to grab the value of name and place it into the out box here. So when somebody clicks on the button, that whatever they type into the name into this box is then outputted into this box here. So we're going to use the document object again, get element by ID, and this time we're looking for the outbox, and what we need to grab and put into the outbox is the value of the name element. So we're going to type in value equals name. So what this does, it means that it's getting the document object and gets the element by ID outbox, which is this one here, and then it's going to grab the value of whatever is in the name variable, which is whatever they typed in the name in box. So the value name is going to go hopefully into the outbox here, And we can also just comment out the alert because we don't need that, but we may use it again later for testing. So we'll run this. So here's my first box, Hugh, age 21, click. And you can see now that my name, Hugh, is coming into this box here. And because it's a read-only box, you can see I'm trying to type in there, but I can't. So even when the form is first refreshed, and again, if I try to type in here again, nothing can be typed into a read-only input box. So that works well. So we can do another box as well if we like for the age as well. So we can put in input, just copy this. And I can call this one age out. And then again, we just need to grab this line of code here and we're going to just modify it. So document get element ID this time, so it's not outbox, we're looking at age out. And then the value is the variable age. And again, we can run this now. So I've got Hugh, 21, and then click me, and you can see that those values are then carried into the boxes below. Now that's not very good, so we could maybe improve the look of this rather than having a second set of boxes to output the age. We could use an HTML element like a heading or a paragraph to show the data. So we'll do that next. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a h4 element to capture the name data. We've got h4 name, and then I'm going to put an inline HTML element called a span, and a span allows us just to put something inside the h4 inline, so it's on the same line. In other words, span, I'm going to call this one ID equals, and I'm going to use the ID that I had previously, outbox, and close the span tag. And then just to show that there's something there, I'm just going to put in some 3 lines so we can see that. So we're going to just run that to start with, just to test that it works. And you can see I've got name in a h4 and I've got the 3 dots there with the span. So what I want to do is when I enter my name in here, I want the name now to appear where the 3 dots are instead, or the 3 dashes. So going back to my HTML page and the script. So the first thing is we're just going to comment out the input ID for the outbox here. So we don't need that. And let's just run that and see if it works. So see now I've only got one box there for the age. So I'm just going to type in Hugh now. And 21 again, click me. So you see 21 goes into there, but it still doesn't show up in the 3 dashes here, which is what I want. And the reason for that is because in the function we've got the document.getElementById outbox is looking for a value, and a value is something that's associated with a form. So we had the input text field previously, and that was a value. So what we need to do is we need to change the value here to another JavaScript, which is called inner HTML, and equals name. So this time it's going to grab the inner HTML and then put in the name variable there. So this allows us the inner HTML part of the JavaScript allows us to target this now, which is HTML. So we'll run this now. And you can see now that because I've changed it to .inner HTML, my name is now appearing in the h4 tag. So let's do the same thing then for the age. So again, I'm just going to copy the h4 tag, and I've got span ID, and I'm going to change this one to age out, which is the one I had there previously, age out. Again, I'll comment this one out because I don't need it. That's a HTML comment. And then again in my JavaScript here, I need to say document.getElementById ageOut.value. So because we're not using a input box anymore, we need to change this dot value to inner HTML, and the rest of it stays the same, equals age. So we're grabbing the age variable and we're putting it into the inner HTML of the span here. So again, let's just run this. Oops, sorry, I'll just change that to age as well, just so it's not confusing. And run that again. So hue 21, and they go in there. Okay, so if you want to try experimenting with those JavaScripts, and then the next video will show you how to change the CSS color.